Two flying friends have caught the attention of people all across Southern California and some far, far beyond. So why not highlight their fun? I'm Taylor, and it's time for the Weekly Rundown. Thousands of you have been following Jackie and her maid Shadow as they do what they do every nesting season, create a family. And this year, they've seen some ups and downs. We've learned quite a few new things as we watch Jackie, like Clutch and Pip, and the fact a female bald eagle can have two clutches, sort of like a batch, in one season. This half hour, we'll talk to Sandy Steers with Friends of Big Bear Valley, which is responsible for the treetop camera that gives us a bird's eye view into Jackie's world.
I'm Sandy Steers. I'm Executive Director of Friends of Big Bear Valley and have been in that position for the last 19 years. I am a biologist by training, and I love working with the eagles and with all the other nature up here.
We'll look back at the last couple of years and the successes and disappointments, and the hope that these two symbols of the great American wilderness can add to the eagle population in our own backyard of Big Bear. So let's start with where things are right now. We're still waiting to see what will happen with Jackie and Shadow's final egg of the season. Will it hatch? Will it not? But according to the U.S. Forest Service, the odds are exceedingly low that this little guy will actually hatch. Usually an egg incubates for about 35 to 38 days, but we are now almost 45 days in. Forest Service says the egg is probably infertile or failed to develop. Last year, Jackie laid 2 eggs and neither hatched, so it's been a rough couple of years. So we know what's happening now, but a lot led up to this point this season. Jackie and Shadow actually stay in Big Bear year-round, but they do take a little summer vacation still in their habitat area, but don't visit their main nest as often, maybe once or twice a week. So for this season, they were seen dropping by the nest and starting to fix it up at the beginning of October. Shadow was seen checking out the area and bringing in new sticks to freshen things up for his lady.
Every year, part of the bonding process for eagles is for them to add sticks to the nest, and they bring in big sticks and little sticks.
Of course, Jackie popped by too, and as Friends of Big Bear Valley says, very quickly things got a little beaky, bitey, and lovey-dovey, with Shadow not being able to resist a little nibble on her wing to show his love. For the following weeks, they continued to freshen up their nest with new sticks, some as big as mini trees, and more sticks, and of course some more flirting, until it was officially nesting season and dinners and naps were more regular at the popular nest.
Every once in a while they get one a little cockeyed, or they get it stuck in between other sticks and they can't quite get it right. We've got some videos of them a couple times getting, like, the stick is so big they get it stuck underneath them and they can't get off of it, and
they get frustrated.
Yeah, they get frustrated and finally get it. Anyway, it's hilarious to watch them. I'm sure they're not thinking it's funny.
Finally, on January 6th, Jackie laid her first egg of the season. Unfortunately, though, that egg was eaten by ravens the following day. During this time, viewers were very concerned about where Shadow's whereabouts were because we were only seeing Jackie. Some people were even calling him a deadbeat dad. Poor Shadow. But he came back bearing a huge fish for he and Jackie. Then on January 9th, Jackie laid her second egg. On January 13th, she laid her third egg, but it did break during the laying process and almost looked empty.
It might have been just a shell. It did look almost empty. But whatever that was, it was obviously upsetting her system. So she just, I think she just wasn't feeling ready or right to sit on the second one because she wasn't fully fully healthy. So she had to heal herself.
So the birdie couple was left with just one egg, but the unfortunate circumstances continued, and once again, ravens got to the only egg left on January 14th. So, following the loss of 3 eggs, Jackie and Shadow stuck around and continued to spruce up their nest in preparation for another possible clutch. They dealt with snow, lots of food, more sticks, and even Hatch Day. Hatch Day is on February 1st and is basically celebrated as Jackie and Shadow's birthday. Party like it's your birthday. Jackie is 9 years old and Shadow is now 7. She likes him younger. Shortly after their birthday celebrations, on February 8th, Jackie laid the first egg of her second clutch, followed by a second egg on February 11th. So here we are, February 8th, and she now has laid 2 clutches. A clutch is one of those terms a lot of us have just heard for the first time. In terms I understand, a clutch is sort of like a batch. The average clutch is 1 to 3 eggs, so here we see 2. Sometimes as many as 4 though. The eggs are laid in 3 to 4 day intervals and hatch in the order they are laid. A clutch is sometimes called a brood. An eagle will lay a second brood or replacement clutch if the first clutch is lost during incubation, which we saw this season. So anyways, Jackie and Shadow spent the following weeks incubating and guarding this second clutch. They even screamed at a few predators, shared some kisses, ate a lot, took turns snuggling the babies, and dealt with lots of weather. And then another unfortunate event. On March 19th, we saw one of those eggs start to pip, which is basically when it starts to poke through. But the eaglet passed away. Now here we are with just that 1 egg left. So what a season it has been, but Jackie and Shadow are not strangers to us. Their lives have been observed for years now, especially by our NBC Palm Springs team. And after the break, we're breaking down a little bit of their history, like Jackie's previous relationship and her probable parents. And later, the comments have been popping off from the thousands of people chatting about these birds' lives. Some calling them the real eagles of Big Bear, some mad they're covered in snow. This and more when the Weekly Rundown returns in just 2 minutes. Welcome back to a special weekly rundown as we take a deeper look into the lives of Big Bear bald eagles that have captured the attention of all of us. Before the break, we dove into what's happening this season with Jackie and Shadow, but their history in Big Bear dates back nearly 10 years ago, so let's dive into that. In case you didn't know, eagles mate for life. However, Shadow is actually Jackie's second mate, and he's younger than Jackie by a few years. Shadow is 7. We know less about him. He's sort of a mystery guy to us. Jackie is 9 years old, and we know much more about her. She was born in Big Bear Valley, at least that's what's believed.
There was a previous couple called Ricky and Lucy that were there, and they started the nest before 2012, but they had the first chick in 2012, actually in a nest that was 50 feet from this one in a dead tree. We like to think that Jackie may be that first chick that was hatched here. We have no way of knowing because they're not tagged, but there were only two bald eagles in Big Bear at that time during the summer.
Eagles migrate seasonally. Their range reaches as far north as Alaska. However, again, Jackie is the first known bald eagle to live in Big Bear Valley year-round. She's not the only one, she's just the first known one since eagle watchers have been keeping track. The nest where Jackie lives was built by her thought-of parents, Ricky and Lucy, that Sandy just mentioned. They built 2 nests. The first was blown apart in a windstorm, and Jackie's parents were forced to abandon that nest and shift to the one now claimed by Jackie. I mentioned earlier that Shadow is Jackie's second mate. Her first was Mr. B, sounds so mysterious, and he was seen with Jackie back in 2017.
We don't know where he came from. We know that they mated that year because they did it on camera, but we don't know why. Maybe Jackie, because she was just 5, might have been too young, but they did not have eggs. But they did the next year. And the next year they had 2 chicks that we have, the 3rd graders up here have been able to name each year. thanks to the biologist that was at the Forest Service, she would arrange that with the school. And they named these chicks Stormy and BBB for Big Bear Baby. And we got to watch those chicks grow up on camera, and it was beautiful.
Sadly, BBB didn't survive a big storm, so it was just Jackie, Mr. B, and Stormy. But again, eagles typically mate for life, although Jackie apparently plays by her own rules. Shadow came into the scene in 2018 when Jackie and Mr. B were raising that little eaglet named Stormy.
It was late summer of that year, 2018. And then even the chick, Stormy, tried to chase Shadow away because he was an intruder. And Jackie tried to chase him away, and Mr. B tried to chase him away, and he would just stand there and look at them. And if they poked at him, he'd just kind of back up and then stand back up. It was like, one of those punching dummies. and Mr. B finally gave up, and just we haven't seen him. He left the area, and so.
Oh, you could have her. Go ahead, she's all yours.
Yeah, because he just couldn't make him leave. So Shadow's very determined.
Shadow was a persistent little fellow to get his girl, but it worked. Jackie gave in to Shadow. Fast forward to March 2019, Jackie and Shadow had 2 eggs hatch, and the eaglets were named Cookie and Simba. We watched them grow a little fuzz, then they grew wispy little feathers, and eventually bigger feathers. They were so cute as they weeble-wobbled back and forth, gaining their balance. We had a front row seat to their lives, watching Jackie and Shadow constantly reinforcing their home with new sticks and twigs, protecting their hatchlings from hopping out of the nest. As Cookie and Simba got a little older, we saw them mimicking what their parents were doing, moving smaller sticks around, shuffling straw and grass from here to there. We watched their feeding times, Cookie and Simba competing for food, as is their nature, Simba always a little stronger. Then came the freak snowstorm, May 22nd, 2019. The eagle's nest filled with snow and sleet. Both eaglets had grown so much that it was difficult for Jackie to protect them both from the elements. And on May 27th, Cookie, unfortunately like BBB, couldn't handle the conditions and died.
So that was, awful for everybody to see, but at the same time, it's part of nature. And what we're all about is teaching people and educating people about the truth about nature and what's really happening there, and sometimes how difficult it is for the animals to survive just the way it is without making it harder on them.
But we continued to watch the life of Simba, like when he would do a little happy dance when he got a fish, and when he would cheese for the camera like the reality star he thought he was. But since he's fledged and really spread his wings, it's unclear where Simba is now. But he is tagged, so hopefully we can hear of his whereabouts again one day. Fast forward to the 2020 season, Jackie and Shadow had 2 eggs they were incubating in January. So of course, we watched them cuddle up on the eggs, bring in even more sticks, grub on more fish, and all the usual. But unfortunately, after around 44 days of incubation, the U.S. Forest Service announced those eggs weren't viable, just like the announcement we got this season. On the evening of March 13th, Shadow was incubating the eggs. The weather was cold, windy, wet, snow falling and dripping on him from the branches above. Jackie had left the nest just after noon and did not return. Later in the evening, Shadow got up, shook off the snow and rain, and headed out on the front branch to leave. Well, he turned towards the nest and he looked at the eggs and came back to the nest and settled back down to incubate. Not long after, he got up, and this time he actually flew off. For the first time this year, the eggs were left unattended through the night. It seems as if Jackie and Shadow became aware their eggs wouldn't hatch, but we're still not ready to completely give up. A couple of days later, ravens got to the unattended eggs and ate them. They seemed to be undeveloped, just like the Forest Service suggested. Jackie and Shadow both visited the nest individually the next morning. They both looked down at their broken eggs. It was a sad moment for viewers, and I'm sure it was for them as well. Later in the afternoon, Jackie came to the nest with some soft nest materials, picked up one of the empty shells, and flew away. A shadow came in right behind her, picked up the nesting material, and placed it over the other shell in the nest, and he flew away as well. They'd come by here and there and do their little eagle things, but that was the 2020 season, and just about everything up to what I had told you earlier about this season. Interesting stuff, right? Who knew we'd all be so intrigued in the life of birds? But still to come, 25 bald eagle facts you may have never known, plus those snappy little viewer comments I mentioned earlier. And as we head to break, I leave you with a fun little clip. Welcome back to Weekly Rundown, and now to a few fun facts about eagles. 1, they're not really bald. 2, they don't mind the cold. We've said it before as we've watched Jackie braving the snow and ice. Eagles are built for the cold weather, which is why they have a heavier population in the Pacific Northwest and Alaska. 3, eagles can see 3 to 4 times better than humans. The term eagle eye comes from their great vision. 4, eagles are great divers. 5, they weigh up to 12 pounds and can carry objects near their own body weight. 6, male bald eagles weigh about 25% less than female bald eagles. 7, a male bald eagle is about 3 feet tall. The female is even slightly taller. 8, their wingspan is about 6.5 feet. That is longer than me. 9, their nests are about 5.5 feet, if I lay down, and can be as tall as 20 feet. 10, the nest can weigh up to a ton. 11, the bald eagle can fly up to 10,000 feet high. 12, the American bald eagle is a predatory bird. 13, they are brown in color on their wings and body with a bright white head and tail. 14, the bald eagle is the national bird of the United States. 15, it can be found on the U.S. seal, stamps, and coins. 16, the founder of the United States wanted a bird to symbolize a nation they hoped would be strong and powerful, and one that could soar high in the sky to represent freedom. And as we mentioned in number 11, they fly very high. 17, bald eagles are often found near bodies of water to be close to their favorite food, fish. 18, they can capture fish with spiny scales with the sharp talons on their toes. 19, they also have rough pads on the bottom of each foot to help grip slippery food. 20, large groups of bald eagles will gather along rivers in Alaska when salmon is abundant. When fish are scarce, they hunt small mammals like rabbits, squirrels, and even young deer. 21, at times they may scavenge food from other birds or visit human garbage dumps. 22, bald eagles are very adaptable. They're found mostly in the forest and tundras of Alaska, but they can be found in Florida's mangrove swamps. Which takes us to the fun fact number 23. Bald eagles are found throughout North America. Number 24. During the 1970s, bald eagles were on the endangered species list, which leads us to number 25. The all-American bald eagle was removed from the endangered species list in 2007. But how do we tell the females and males apart? Well, Jackie is slightly larger than Shadow, and she has thicker legs.
Bald eagles are actually over 3 feet tall, just their body. And the females have like a 7-foot wingspan. The males have 6.5-foot wingspan. The males are smaller than the females by about a third.
The first couple of years, it was easy to identify Shadow because his crown of white feathers had a few stray dark feathers. Well, mature adult eagles have a full crown of white feathers. So the reason we can even dive this deep into their lives is the camera. How to get up there? Who works on it? How? Well, it takes a team. The camera has been up since 2015, but gained its popularity more recently. It took guys climbing up the nest, finding alternative power, downloading and rebooting systems and softwares, getting special permission, testing it just to have to take it down and test it again and put it back up. All sorts of steps. So shout out to Jim Appleberry, Mike Bode, Cindy Bode, Dr. Peter Sharp, Mike Melling, Chris Alexander, Terry Ashmore, Robin Alasian, Shelly Egan, JJ Strano, Silky Sue, Dennis Dawson, and the U.S. Forest Service, just to name a few. And you saw only a few in that picture, but oh, what fun, am I right? Stick around because after the break, we're getting to those viewer comments I keep talking about. Welcome back to Weekly Rundown, where we've been talking about our favorite bald eagle friends in Big Bear. We've talked about what's currently going on with them, we've talked about their past as we know it, and we've learned some fun new facts. But one thing I couldn't let slip by is the hilarious comments these guys get. So it's time for Say What? From YouTube to Facebook, you can be entertained for quite a while, although the YouTube comments are now hidden. But Sandy Steers herself has heard quite a few of them.
People have been upset with us because we won't go and build a roof over the nest so that the chicks don't have to face the weather. And a lot of times they are talking about Shadow having OCD, and because he's so careful about where to put each stick, and it's just funny, all the attributes that people put to these animals. But I'm really glad that they're enjoying them and having a good time, watching and learning about them at the same time. I've had people call Shadow Jackie's husband, which I think is funny.
Gotta love social media comments. As we head to break, I'll leave you with another silly bird video. I'll see you in 2. Friends of Big Bear Valley is a nonprofit organization with the goal of maintaining the unspoiled beauty and unique environment of the 7th most diverse place in the country. So, like all nonprofits, your support allows them to be who they are. To support them, you could join with a membership, purchase products like t-shirts and calendars and adoption certificates, or just donate. So I encourage you to show the organization and Jackie and Shadow some love so we can keep up with their fascinating lives. To do this, you can head on over to friendsofbigbearvalley.org. I hope you all enjoyed this little eagle fun. Have a great week.